We are back from break. I'm David Boles, and this is Boles.television. It's Boles.tv. BOLES.tv. Coming to you live from the East Coast of these United States. So, there's a whole new controversy that's kind of brewing, and I find the whole thing sad and disappointing and, I guess, not surprising. Harriet Tubman founded the Underground Railroad. And when you're a young kid in the Midwest and it's Black Appreciation Week in 1970, you're told by your, third, fourth grade teacher, hey, find a black person in history that you can, make a cutout of and put it on your locker and we'll celebrate Black Americans Week. Hey, that's what we did. And I remember one of those years was Harriet Tubman. And I remember coloring her cutout body, and I think she had a pink robe on or a purple robe or something like that. And then, you feel good about yourself because, hey, look, I'm a young white kid from the Midwest, and I'm celebrating the black people. And it sounds crass and awful, and it is and it was. But back then, 50 years ago, that's how you celebrated the black community. So I remember reading something about Harriet Tubman, that she was deaf or had lost her hearing, in anticipation of sharing this next story with you. And so I asked my best friend, ChatGPT, hey, was Harriet Tubman deaf? And I was very quickly and rudely corrected. Was Harriet Tubman deaf? No! Harriet Tubman was not deaf. However, she did suffer from health complications due to a traumatic brain injury she sustained as a young girl. I did not know that. Around the age of 12, ChatGPT says, Tubman was struck in the head with a heavy metal weight by an overseer, causing severe damage. As a result, she experienced symptoms such as seizures, severe headaches, and narcoleptic episodes for the rest of her life. I did not know any of this either. These episodes, ChatGPT says, sometimes referred to as sleeping spells, could resemble unconsciousness and might have led to some misconceptions about her sensory capabilities, like was she deaf? These medical conditions, although debilitating, did not deter Tubman from her extraordinary accomplishments. She became an American abolitionist, humanitarian, and spy for the United States Army during the Civil War. She is most famous for her role in liberating enslaved people through the Underground Railroad, a network of anti-slavery activists and safe houses. It is essential to approach Tubman's life with the nuanced understanding that, despite her medical setbacks, she was a remarkably resilient individual whose contributions to American history are immeasurable. For further reading, so I'm going to ask, what is an overseer, just so we get the definition. What is an overseer? ChatGPT says, an overseer within the context of the American slave system was an individual, typically a white male, responsible for managing the daily operations of a plantation or agricultural estate that employed enslaved labor. So it was an overseer, a white man who hit her in the head. The overseer's duties were manifold and encompassed aspects such as supervising labor force, overseeing the planting and harvesting of crops, and maintaining discipline, hitting young girls in the head, and order among the enslaved people. Given the dehumanizing nature of slavery, the role of the overseer was often associated with the harsh treatment of enslaved individuals, including the administration of corporal punishment, hitting him in the head, to enforce labor and suppress any forms of resistance or insubordination. The figure of the overseer was a nexus point where economic imperatives met with social and racial ideologies. The overseer was often accountable to the plantation owner and was expected to maximize productivity and profitability. This managerial imperative often translated into brutal conditions for the enslaved, engendering a system of surveillance and control that was emblematic of the larger institution of slavery. Though the position of overseer was an occupation held in higher esteem than that of the enslaved, it was not considered a high-status job in Southern society. Overseers often hailed from lower socioeconomic backgrounds and saw the position as a stepping stone to acquiring land and enslaved people of their own. The legacy of the overseer is a contentious and painful one, representing a confluence of economic exploitation and human suffering that was the foundation to the institution of slavery in these United States. The role has been subjected to extensive scholarly inquiry, and it serves as a lens through which the intricate dynamics of power, race, and economics during this dark chapter of American history can be examined. Wow! Now we know about Harriet Tubman, which leads us to our next disappointment. This is a sculpture of Harriet Tubman. Philadelphia received 50 proposals, including this one from artist Alvin Petit, after announcing plans for a Harriet Tubman statue in front of City Hall. The title of this article from the New York Times is "Philadelphia Asks If Race of Tubman Sculptor Matters." Uh-oh, here we go. Yes, again. A white artist was invited to design a statue of Harriet Tubman. After complaints from the black community, the city held an open call for submissions. Now, curious, strange, and disappointing in every way. A year ago, the city of Philadelphia invited an artist to design a statue of Harriet Tubman that would stand in front of City Hall to honor the abolitionist's legacy and celebrate her connection to the city. Then came the complaints. Some incensed artists and community members argued that the city should have used a public selection process rather than awarding a commission, in part because the artist the Philadelphia people had selected was a white man. Now, that's very interesting to me. Now, I agree that the contest should have been everybody submits. We don't know what race you are. We don't know what gender you are. We don't know anything about you. All we do is we look at what's presented, and we, the city of Philadelphia, we pick the one that we think best represents the person who we are honoring, who is Harriet Tubman. Now, would Harriet Tubman like being caught up in this race issue in 20 and 23, where a white man is not allowed to be commissioned to create a statue of a black woman? That's the issue, and it's a nasty one. And I can sort of see both sides, but I still find the whole thing very disappointing. So the city ultimately responded by ending its partnership with the artist, the white artist, and issuing an open call for submissions. It received 50 applications and has recently unveiled 5 semifinalist designs, all created by black artists. Now, that's where this gets uncomfortable, because we are immediately, my friend, reminded of the issue from a few months ago of The Lion King on Broadway and the big rigmarole that was going on with that show being interpreted for the deaf, where a person in charge of interpreters wrote to a white hearing interpreter saying, because you are white, you cannot interpret for black people on the stage. It has to fit aesthetically. Therefore, the skin color must match The skin color of the interpreter and the skin color of the artist on stage. And the white person who was thrown out sued, and I hope won a lot of money. Because you cannot do that to people. You can't have it one way and then not have it both ways. You cannot say to somebody, you're excluded because of the color of your skin, unless, of course, you're white, then you're out. And that's what happened in this case of the Harriet Tubman statue. And that is what happened in the case of the Lion King. You're the wrong color. This is a black thing. You're not allowed to be part of it. You can't be sensitive. You can't be artistic. You can't be aesthetic because you have the wrong skin color. And yes, people use that against black people for, 100 years. But now that we're coming up and these are our people, you're not allowed to be a part of it. Wesley Wofford, in his studio with a sculpture of Tubman, Philadelphia originally offered him $500,000 to design a statue of the abolitionist. And I think it's very beautiful, but there he is, wrong color. It's a beautiful sculpture, but that doesn't matter to some people today. The only thing that matters is what color skin did the person have who created this beautiful sculpture? And if you're the wrong color, you can't be part of it. I think that's wrong. I don't think Harriet Tubman herself would approve of that. I believe Harriet Tubman would say, if you did the best design, the most interesting sculpture, I pick you. Now, they're trying to force this on a technicality that the person was just commissioned because he's very talented instead of having it opened up as a contest for the commission. Okay, all that's fine, but it takes us into a deeper idea of problems we've had all along, and not just with race, but also of gender. There are some people who say that writers cannot write a woman character if that writer is male. Because a man can never understand the heart, the inner workings of a woman. Now, if you'd flip that around and say a woman writer is not allowed to write a male character, people would be outraged. But because it's a man writing about a woman, how can a man ever understand a woman? Then there are some people who try to make that an issue. And to those people, I say, okay, if it's all about experience and direct knowledge through direct experience, how then can any writer, male or female, write about, let's say, the President of the United States? Because the logic, the illogic, is the same. Oh, you can't write about the president unless you've been the president of the United States. Well, how many people can say that? What, 40, 46? Who knows? Not very many. And that, on its face, is ridiculous. You would laugh me out of the writer's room. What do you mean we can't write about the president if we haven't been the president? And I would say, well, what do you mean? How can a man not write about a woman? Why is he not allowed to write about a woman? Because he's not a woman. But a woman can write about a man. It's these sticky, some would say woke, issues of unfairness that are flipped to be conveniently fair. And we've seen it throughout history, and it's not going to stop. And I think it's only going to get worse. Oh, a person from New York can't write about someone living in the South because they don't understand. They don't get our history. They don't get our culture. You only write about what you've directly experienced. Well, if that's the case, science fiction, done. Because people who talk that way, people who disallow people because of the color of their skin, either way, their talent, their gender, their ingenuity, they are promoting a lack and a loss of creativity and imagination. You can't possibly imagine and then write about what it's like to be me because you're not me. You can't write about a mass murderer unless you're a mass murderer. Nobody can write about Abraham Lincoln because you might know the facts, but you don't know how he really felt. But then we have a Supreme Court who says, oh, we base all of our decisions, wink, wink, on original intent because only we, the Supreme Court of these United States, can possibly know what the original founding fathers meant when they wrote the Constitution all those years ago. Original intent. But what about the line, in order to form a more perfect union, which right there suggests that all of these faded documents were meant to change and breathe with America. No, 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 no. We're the Supreme Court. We know the original intent, and this is what it means. It's all ridiculous. We have to try to get along with each other. We have to welcome thoughts and visions and imaginations from a wide variety of people, no matter what color they are, no matter what sex they are, no matter how they identify and relate to the world. Everyone can be heard, everyone can be involved, everyone can be determinative, but I would argue talent and creativity matter. And to me, talent and creativity trumps all of that because it's all done without the microscopic intention of imagined influences and motivations. You either see something and you say, that's big talent, or you see something and you know, wow, this is what it's supposed to be. That's imagination. That's something we haven't thought of before. And that is what we need to honor as a people. That's my take. Let me know what you think. You know where to find me.